Aujourd'hui, comme vocabulaire, on va regarder le caractère et la personnalité. I've just made it really clear, it's le caractère et la personnalité, so character and personality. It's quite good when you've got two words like that, which are fairly similar, that you can contrast and remember that one's masculine and one's feminine. I find that's quite useful. Other words that you can contrast like that are le bois, la forêt, so the wood, forest. La rivière, le fleuve. The river and the big river is le fleuve. But I find that quite useful. So let's have a look. It's very interesting little summary here, I think. So, Nathalie a de la personnalité, du caractère. So we can see de la and du. C'est une forte personnalité. So she's got a strong personality. Elle a un caractère bien trempé. Un sacré caractère. C'est une femme de caractère. So all of this is saying that she's got a lot of character. Yeah, there's a lot of personality there. Trempé means soaked. So she's soaked in character. And this is a really nice expression. You can say sacré anything, really. So un sacré caractère is a real character. Real character. So where you would put real in front of something in English, you can use un sacré, which is quite nice. Luc a un caractère difficile. Oh là là, ok. Il a mauvais caractère. Il a un sale caractère. Il a un caractère de cochon. Right, so we're getting quite strong here. So he's got a difficult character. Sometimes it's called il est spécial is another way of saying that, by the way. That's not necessarily a compliment if you hear that. He's got a bad character. He's got a dirty character. That's more, it's got an asterisk next to it because that's a more sort of like familiar term. So un sale caractère, that's quite strong actually, by the way. You know, like we're taught méchant when we were at school for French, that's quite strong as well. So if you were to say something about that, say something like that about someone, you'd be really saying something quite powerful, whereas difficile is a bit more diplomatic. Equally, il a un caractère de cochon, he's got the character of a pig, is not a compliment. So, il n'est pas facile à vivre, he's not easy to get along with, he's not easy to live alongside. Il n'est pas commode, he's not very accommodating, he's not easy. Commode, nice word that, nothing to do with the English word, of course. Il est pénible, he's awful. That's another great word you'd be able to use. Anything can be pénible. So where we would probably want to use terrible, I'd use pénible instead. You know, for terrible, for something terrible, yeah. Et parfois, sometimes, même, even, that means even. If you've got no le or la in front of it, it means even. And even insupportable, unbearable. Insupportable is a word that's used much more often than we use the word unbearable. Odieux, I think you get the idea there. Now this is a nice little introduction to a sentence. En revanche, basically on the other hand. So en revanche, Antoine a bon caractère. So Antoine has got nice character. And then if we want to go really emphasizing how lovely his character is, il a un caractère en or. He's a legend. He's got a character in gold, so he's a legend. Okay, so that's two extremes, isn't it, of the good and the bad. How about if you're in the middle and you've got no character? Well, let's have a look at that. So, Yves manque de personnalité. So, Yves lacks personality. Anything that you think is rather dull is fade. Fade is dull. So that doesn't mean just you have to apply this to people, by the way. Il est fade, effacé, insignifiant, banal, quelconque, ordinaire, terne, falot, mollasson. And all of those basically saying there's a bit of a drip. There's not much to him. Effacé is almost like wiped away, insignificant, banal, either one thing or another. Quelconque is like very ordinary, ordinary. Terne means ordinary. Falot, I've not seen that word before. It's in the list. And mollasson is kind of wet. So that would be the drip thing. Okay, let's have a look at some other types of personality character. Cet enfant a un tempérament anxieux. Anxieux. So this child has got an anxious temperament. Sa personnalité est en train de se forger et bientôt elle s'affirmera. So this his or her personality is in the process of être en train de, is forming, and soon it will become more affirmative, more clearer. Bad translation, sorry. On distingue déjà des traits de caractère qui tiennent de ses parents. We can already distinguish the character traits that he gets from his parents. So you could say that about yourself if you like. J'ai un trait de caractère que je tiens de mes parents. Okay, ce photographe a un tempérament bohème, rêveux, artiste. Now, we're not talking about a photograph. A photograph is a photographer. So this photographer has got a temperament which is bohème, rêveux, artiste. So bohemian, dreamer, artistique. And I remember when I lived in Lyon, people used to call me bohème. I don't really know what they meant by it, but anyway, that's what they used to tell me. Il n'a pas les pieds sur terre. Il est toujours dans la lune. So he hasn't got his feet on the ground. He's always in the moon. He's always up there in the clouds. Voilà. Adrien est un original. So Adrian is an original. So this is when you start to see that someone stand out. They've got a bit of an eccentric personality. So sometimes, parfois, excentrique, sometimes eccentric, et même extravagant, a bit sort of like extreme. That doesn't mean extravagant in spending. Il ne fait jamais comme les autres. Never does anything like anyone else. So very, very sort of like non-conformist, if you like. C'est un être singulier. C'est un être singulier. So it's a single being. On le considère parfois comme un farfelu. A farfelu, so we consider him sometimes like a farfelu. A farfelu is a bit clownish. If I was to think of a personality in recent times who I've described as farfelu, I would describe Boris Johnson as farfelu, with his sort of like messy hair and, noises and things. Il est étrange, spécial et fantaisiste. So he's strange, spécial, it means a bit unusual, and a fantasist. Now, this is quite useful for describing how someone seems. So we've got 3 words here for seem. We've got avoir l'air. So this one's conjugated to Victor. So Victor a l'air. So Victor seems. So avoir l'air, if you want to describe someone, they seem. Equally, because these are all equal, so they're synonyms. Victor semble, ou alors Victor pareil. So seems, you can see seems in there if you like, and pareil appears, if you like. You can see appears perhaps in there. Réservé et même renfermé. So he seems reserved and even a bit closed off. En réalité, sous des dehors réservés, sous des apparences renfermées, il est plutôt sociable. But in reality, behind that reserved outer core, outer image, if you like, under the appearances, behind those appearances of being closed, he is in fact sociable. He's rather sociable, plutôt sociable. Il n'est pas particulièrement timide, contrairement aux apparences. So he's not really timid, he's not really shy against the appearance. D'ailleurs, comme dit le proverbe, il ne faut pas se fier aux apparences. And by the way, or furthermore, d'ailleurs, great word, like the proverb says, and I guess you can think of the English equivalent of this. So don't believe outer appearances, or don't judge a book by its cover, I guess is what we would say, yeah? So if you're going to use one of these phrases, by the way, like an idiomatic phrase, it's important to get it exactly right, because when you get a word wrong in an idiomatic phrase, it doesn't quite work. Doesn't mean don't use it, just be aware that it, or else you get some comedy value out of it sometimes. Okay, Michel possède est doté de grandes qualités. So Michel possesses, has great qualities, et de petits travers de défauts. C'est quelqu'un de bien. So he's, you know, he's got great, he possesses, he has great qualities. He's only got little traits, little little faults. He's someone who's good. That's a nice phrase. If you wanted to say about someone that you liked them, you say c'est quelqu'un de bien. It's a good person. I like that phrase. Il est foncièrement bienveillant et généreux. So profondément, so you do know the word profond is deep. So, you know, fundamentally there. So he's fundamentally kind and generous. Il est dépourvu, dénué de méchanceté et d'égoïsme. Il n'est pas du tout méchant ni égoïste. So he hasn't got any meanness in him or selfishness or egotistical behavior. He's not at all. Il n'est pas du tout, not at all. That's another useful little phrase. Il n'est pas du tout méchant, which is quite nasty, or egotistical. Ah, right, we've got another proverb here. So, comme dit le proverbe, chassez le naturel et revient au galop. Si nous faisons un effort pour changer de caractère, notre nature profonde réapparaît. All right, so it says, and the horsey people amongst you might like this. So if you go hunting for the natural part of someone, it will come back to you in galloping. And if we go looking to change character, our natural nature, deep nature, will always reappear. So basically, it's saying, you know, you can't. Oh, what would we say? You can't cut a leopard to change its spots or something like that. My English translation today is pretty poor, sorry. So, remarque, le langage courant confond à tort le tempérament qui est inné, le caractère qui se développe avec l'âge et la personnalité, le caractère, l'intellect et les tendances morales. Okay, so we've got a definition here. Okay, so le tempérament is innate. Le caractère develops with age. And personality is character plus intellect plus our moral tendencies. Right, our actual lesson for today, the differences between those things. Excellent. So I hope you found some really useful things in there. There's some nice phrases, and it's a nice way of describing as well. En revanche, d'ailleurs, those kinds of connectors are really nice to see as well. Bon, merci beaucoup d'être venu, et puis je vous souhaite une très bonne journée. Merci, au revoir. Au revoir, merci.